if I feel as a reader that my time is being spent intentionally and carefully to a specific end, um, then I'm not too picky about what kind of prose that is. Like there's many species of good prose. It can be describing, the sun on the leaves or a summer passing or like a knife fight. Any of those things can be good so long as I feel like I'm in a competent hand that knows exactly what it is doing down to the word level. And that's obviously super, super subjective. Like many, many books that I love very much are accused on Goodreads of being slow or purple or dense or whatever. And I just like, that's none of my business. No one can write a sentence that everyone agrees is a good sentence, but you can only write a sentence that you know is a good sentence.
What is up, everybody, and welcome to episode 178 of SFF Addicts. I'm your host, Adrian M. Gibson, and welcome to your weekly dive into the world of science fiction, fantasy, and writing craft. Joining me this week are both of my co-hosts. First up is my bestie from the Midwestie, the queen of my days, Greta Kelly. How you doing, Greta?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Doing very well, thank you. And also joining us is my co-pilot, the Chewie to my Han Solo, the Joker to my Commander Shepard, MJ Kuhn. How are you, MJ?
I am great. I'm great. Excited for this chat.
Real great. You know what else is great is Among Thieves, which is book one in MJ's Tales of Tomorrow duology. And if you buy this book, then that money goes directly to feeding MJ's cats. And as we said last episode, winter is coming and they are not fat enough. So
they will never be fat enough if they have anything to say about it. Also, if you want to feed Greta's cats, and her children, but Greta has cats too.
I do.
You can check out her books. She's got the Warrior Witch duology. We have the Frozen Crown and the Seventh Queen. The Forgotten Little Child. And then also you can pick Queen of Days, which is a standalone host featuring Chaos Gremlins.
Yes, and if you want to support Adrian and he doesn't have cats, but he has two beautiful boys. Go support Adrian's boys. Buy Mushroom Blues for your dose of murder, mystery, and mushrooms. It's amazing. You'll love it.
Support our kids.
It sounded like mostly cats, to be honest. I'm sorry, you ranked each other in terms of the urgency of cats being fed.
True. Yeah. Just going straight for the cats. Forget the kids. Whatever. In my case, I only have kids. Unfortunately, I should get some cats so they take priority.
Peer pressure, Adrian. Peer pressure.
Thank you so much. Tell that to my wife, Greta. Tell that to my wife. As well, a quick note for listeners, you can support this wonderful shit show on Patreon for a ton of cool bonus episodes, author readings, all kinds of extras. So check the links in the description to support what we do here. Also, don't forget to rate and review the podcast on your favorite podcast app and subscribe to the FanFiAddict YouTube channel where this and every other episode of the show is available in full video. And now, with us once again, maybe having cats, I don't know, the talented Alix E. Harrow, author of The 10,000 Doors of January, Starling House and more, as well as the newly released The Everlasting, which is out today. Welcome back, Alix. How are you?
Thank you so much. And I do have two cats, for the record.
There we go.
Just if we're just deciding where to apportion our money. I just want to say I have two kids and two cats. That's all.
Yeah. Me too. So I think that's the sweet spot, Adrian.
We need two cats. There you go.
So there you go. Go buy The Everlasting, support Alix's cats and then kids, and we're all set. Yeah. Also, heads up, this is part two of our chat with our two-part chat with Alix, so I recommend checking out part one to get to know her better. Today, though, it's all about the rhythm and the flow as we delve into a writing masterclass on prose and rhythm. Before we dig deeper into the episode, a quick word from our sponsor. Prepare for a sci-fi and fantasy adventure, an exciting new anthology where you can travel from distant planets on the edge of space to enchanted worlds filled with magic, featuring stories from over 20 authors. Laugh with plucky thieves, or cry with aging mages. Discover ancient wisdoms, rise above unbeatable odds, and reflect on personal sacrifices. All for Honor. The Honor Special Edition Anthology. Back it on Kickstarter, only for a limited time. And now, enjoy the rest of this episode of SFF Addicts. So just to kick off this discussion, let's get into kind of like the basics of things in terms of like, how do you define prose and how does rhythm play into that equation?
I think this is a very exciting thing to get to do something called Masterclass for someone who's literally never had a writing class. I feel like I'm the correct person for this job. I'm in the right place. I'm glad you've come
And you
to
were
me.
a teacher.
I'm
You
so
were a teacher
glad
too.
you've come to me.
Yes.
You're in the
Let's
right
do this.
place. Yeah, so I feel like there is a correct answer to this, but I don't know it. But I think a lot about prose, and I really am excited to talk about it. And lately, this is kind of my new thing, so brace yourself. It's not very tested. Lately, I've been thinking a lot about prose as kind of an intentional manipulation of time, that you are literally getting to determine as the author, kind of word by word, how the reader spends their time and how time moves in your world. So you can freeze it with like a static description, or like whole months can go by, years can go by in one sentence. The summer dragged on. That's incredible, the speed at which you can move and manipulate time with your prose. And then rhythm, if that's prose, then rhythm becomes kind of like literal rhythm, which is creating the expectation of that next beat and kind of teaching your reader how time is going to move from word to word and sentence to sentence in your book.
I love that. It reminds me of like film. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like how much you do, like how often you do camera cuts and different jump cuts like that.
Yeah, exactly. You could think, I feel like a lot of art is kind of manipulating attention and time and telling you where to look and when and for how long. And I really feel like your word choice is the only tool you have in books.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the word choice, because this is going to be a loaded question. Not really, kind of. How do you know good prose from bad prose? Is there such a thing, right? How can personal subjective tastes affect that interpretation? Let's just discuss that in general.
I think good prose, therefore, then, is a good waste of time. It is supposed to be, if I feel as a reader that my time is being spent intentionally and carefully to a specific end, then I'm not too picky about what kind of prose that is. Like, there's many species of good prose. It can be describing, the sun on the leaves, or a summer passing, or like a knife fight. Any of those things can be good, so long as I feel like I'm in a competent hand that knows exactly what it is doing down to the word level. And that's obviously super, super subjective. Like many, many books that I love very much are accused on Goodreads of being slow or purple or dense or whatever. And I just, like, that's none of my business. No one can write a sentence that everyone agrees is a good sentence, but you can only write a sentence that you know is a good sentence.
Well, screw Goodreads. Tell us about those books that you think
Seriously.
are beautiful.
I know.
or from TV or movies, just like anything that really has stuck out to you that you've seen or experienced that just struck you as like, damn, this is some good, meaty, juicy prose.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm describing it like a cheeseburger.
I do. I'm not super pumped about writing and dialogue lately in TV and movies, and I that's not my field. I don't know what's going on over there, but it doesn't seem great. But some of the like fiction writers that I often will turn to or think about when I think about good prose are Nicola Griffith, who I think is just incredible. She wrote Ammonite, which is an old sci-fi novel. She has a series of crime novels, and then her current work is these massive historical epics about a 5th century saint, Hild and Meanwood. I think they're perfect books. Tamsin Muir, obviously. Shirley Jackson, totally different, right? No one describes Shirley Jackson as lyrical, but I think her prose is some of the strongest that there is. Sophia Samatar for short fiction was one of my, I remember reading her stories really specifically to learn how to write short stories. But the funny thing that I like thinking about when you ask, like, where do you find good prose, is that I feel like we tend to think about it as something that is the exclusive domain of highbrow work. Like, it's in literature and it's in poetry. But you find it everywhere. Like, cheap romance paperbacks sometimes have lines that just literally knock me out. Pop music, you know, like I think lyricists a lot because I'm too much of a chicken for poetry, but listening to music and songwriters, I think they all do amazing work. But like, I was literally just talking to my husband for like an hour about how good I think the line in the Olivia Rodrigo song I want to get him back is, because it's the double use of like, I want him back, but I also want to get revenge. It's
Mhm.
so obvious, but I feel like a pop song hasn't done it before, and I was like, "That's the good shit."
Yeah. That's the shit we all live
That
for.
it
But
is.
it is really cool to think about that though. Like even what a lot of people would consider like pop media and just kind of like more lowbrow stuff. There are so many gems in there,
Yeah,
right? And it's like if you think about something like comedy, you know, or like satire, there are so many people who would like downplay the um the sort of like cultural significance of something like that. But then it's
absolutely.
like, man, like the way that someone who works in comedy crafts that joke, that is prose at its most beautiful. The fact that it's like literally every single word has a purpose and it's
Yes.
all building up towards
And
a
rhythm
perfect
is a
delivery.
huge part of it. Like, it
Exactly.
doesn't
Rhythm
work
and
if you don't
delivery.
have good rhythm and delivery, and I really feel like I get so frustrated when people say like, "Well, it's just fluff or it's just fun." I mean, romance is something I read a ton of. And it frustrates me when there's a refusal to see that there's gradations of art within a single genre. Like if all the covers look the same, they're like, well, it doesn't need to be good. I'm not looking for like quality in there. And I'm like, but there's incredible stuff. Like, um, I've been obsessed with Judith Ivory, who wrote in the 90s lately. Can I just read you one of her paragraphs? And this is from
Yeah,
an
yeah.
Avon paperback historical romance that costs like $3.99 when it came out. Just want to be
Let's hear
clear
it.
about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
The
I love it.
paragraph is, the large disasters submit, that's the character's name is Submit would later recall, do not come announced with either bright trumpets or the dark baying of hounds. The larger disasters of life are usually laid and stored and built of ordinary things, assembled over time by one's own device, so that one feels almost on friendly terms with all the little bits and pieces, the false convictions, the unresolved incongruities. One lives always with the components of one's undoing. I mean, fuck
Damn.
off. That's so good.
That is amazing. And that's in a $3.99
Yes,
paperback,
that is
like a
in.
historical romance.
Which one is that in? I am trying to find the actual copy. I think it is in this baby right here. Look at this. It even has the step back. Look at
Oh,
that.
wow.
Look at
Oh, there
that.
it
Damn. Steamy.
Meow.
We're getting steamy in this
And
masterclass.
there
But
was
I
no
guarantee you, when
need
she
for her to go that hard, but
no,
she
but
did.
I guarantee when she wrote that, she was like, "Fuck yes!"
Yeah.
Like I
Oh, she's
nailed it.
living it up. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
I
We're
mean,
back
I
to the
read this
90s
whole
version of
book.
this is bars.
And
Like,
then, yeah, absolutely. I read this whole book and I was like, oh, this is Middlemarch fan fiction. So, like, clearly she knows what she's doing. She's deeply embedded in English literature and this
Yeah,
is the art that she wants to make. And it's pretty horny. And I think that's beautiful.
that is beautiful. And what else is beautiful is the everlasting, which we talked a lot about last episode. But I think one of the things that you touched on last week was the inspirations that you took from King Arthur and sort of like building on this mythology of King Arthur and having a conversation with it essentially. And when you open the everlasting, it's like within the first two sentences, like, you know what you're in for, you know, it's like the style of prose does so much to inform reader expectations from the get-go. So what are your thoughts on that in terms of like how prose can tell the reader this is the story that you're going to get?
I think that's such a good observation because I really think that everyone is crafting prose very intentionally, whether or not they're like totally aware of it. If they're like, well, I'm just writing like a space opera or something. Actually, a space opera has a really specific set of expectations among its readers and among its writers of how you are going to approach world building, how dialogue is going to hit, how long you get for descriptions. All of these things are baked into the genre. And so you are telling your reader how to read your book from the first sentence and the first words and the nouns you choose. Um, not to be a total Nicola Griffith fanboy, but Hild, if you've ever read any of her essays about writing it, I mean, she got an honorary doctorate in the process of researching these books. So, like, the degree of research is not something that is achievable for most writers, I don't think. She reads, I think, 3 dead languages at this point just for research. Um, but her character, it's the dream. I mean, it's beautiful. She's literally gone to archaeological sites to look at like early motifs that would be on weapons to choose the correct motif for her characters. I love her. But for Hild, she has characters that come from different language groups in 5th century Britain. And she chose verbs during their sections that descend from those languages. She didn't use Latinate words for her Celtic characters. That's incredible. And you don't really realize it as you read. You know, like that's not something I'm like, I noticed you didn't use this type of verb. But when you go back and reread it, you do realize how different each character's perspective feels and that she did that on purpose. She is actually telling you what she's doing the whole time. And I think that's very, very beautiful. And so when I wrote The Everlasting, I was trying to do a really specific thing, which is not the actual medieval, but the 19th century romanticized version of the medieval that we know. So that first like 2 pages had to sound very arch and very formal and very mythic. It has to sound like T.H. White trying to sound like the medieval, right? Which is why it was very, very necessary to have those 2 pages followed by a telegram format calling it all a crock of shit. Like I'm trying to tell you, the reader, like this is going to be this myth, but it's going to be undercut the whole time.
I love that. It's like a pastiche within a pastiche.
Yeah, it's like prepare yourself.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Well, and so okay, so when you write your books, well, at what point in the process are you dialing in your prose? This is where I always love to ask, because especially with yours, it's gorgeous and it's beautiful. When are you adding that beauty? Is it in the first draft, or are you the type of writer that just kind of vomits out a first draft and then can integrate it later, asking for a friend? It's me.
Yeah. I don't think that people should take this answer as like something they should do, because I am very slow. Like in terms of what an ideal market pace would be for a genre writer, I can't write a book a year. So I'm not saying this is how you should do it, but I don't really see a meaningful distinction between sort of like the prose or the prettiness and the flow of the story. I'm doing both of those things at once. I take a really long time to do my first drafts, and they come out, they're fairly clean. It's not like I don't have to do a lot of revisions, but like certainly on the sentence level, I did that on purpose. I've made those choices.
So I guess related to that is rhythm. I'm assuming is the same thing. You have to think about it as you're writing just that first draft, and then, I mean, are there any tips that you have to share for going back and making sure that everything hits right? Like, how do you just?
Yeah.
Are you someone who like reads all your books aloud, or do you have other advice that you can share?
Yeah, I end up reading them aloud a lot. It's not really something I like have a specific phase for. It's sort of like I've kind of finished I've got my new words down for the day or whatever, and I've reworked them and reworked them. But the only way to really check for me is to go back and like I'm kind of muttering them out loud to myself all the time. That's the only way I can really, like, you don't understand how long a sentence is until you read it out loud. And you have to be making sure that sentence is on purpose that long. If it's supposed to feel breathless and endless and dragging, then good. But like, again, it's about intentionality and like making sure that time is moving the way it's supposed to be moving. And I do think that's like the rhythm piece is maybe something that comes a little bit later, like not at the end of the draft, but at the end of a chapter. I go back and reread and you realize, as you moved a couple things around, parts of it got choppy or they don't sound right anymore. And like that will be smoothed out. I will also kind of later, like at the end of a chapter or a scene, if I have stumbled upon something that I liked at a prose level, like a metaphor that I really felt like said the thing that I was trying to say. Like often you're circling something for a few days or a little bit before you're finally like, that's what it is. Once you finally hit that, I often will take that little half a line or whatever and kind of try to go back through that chapter or even the whole book and weave it in. So like if you've described a character as being like a knife or like a blade without a handle or something like that. You're like, that's correct for her. Then you have to go back and like make sure you're using words like forge or wet or steel or like you kind of make her metaphors consistent then throughout in a way that will like echo even if not consciously. I feel like that can help with rhythm.
Yeah. You
That's
said like
clever.
circling, and I just imagine like, I don't know, we're vultures just looking for the right metaphor.
Yeah. I mean, for a book on time loops, it was very much like being stuck in a fucking time loop to write this book.
It's just like, when is it going to work? When is it going to make
When
sense?
is it gonna work? When does it make sense? And once, like no section of it was finished. I was touching every part of the book, the whole draft, right? Because like a certain number of scenes repeat like 5
Yeah,
times. And
that's
so
true.
if you make a small change to setting or to tone or to who's standing where even, it fucks it up for like each iteration of the circle. And I had to go make adjustments all the time.
Go.
I'm
I
just
hope you listened to
imagining
last
you
week's
with like
episode.
6 monitors.
Don't do time loops, people.
What I'm saying is, and I can't stress this enough, don't do time loops.
Yeah.
It's just like a 2-part cautionary tale.
Yeah. But read Alex's time loop because it really is awesome.
Because there won't be another one.
I'm done. I want to build on the topic of rhythm because this is something that I really love, and there are certain authors that I think of when it comes to like the musicality and the writing. Like Guy Gavriel Kay is a real favorite of mine. They're just like really adept at infusing musicality into the rhythm of their prose, right? That it lifts the prose to a whole other level. So how do you view the role of rhythm and musicality in written words? Because we're like obviously like right at the top we were talking about music and the
Yeah.
ways in which prose appears, like good prose appears in music, right?
Yeah.
How do you capture that in your writing?
Well, what I think is interesting about this question is that I don't think all beautiful or good prose has musicality to it. Like it's like a subsection of it that I think is gorgeous and I love particularly. But I was thinking about like a Guy Gavriel Kay or a Nicola Griffith, where it has like hearing it read aloud is beautiful. And it has like repeated pacing, almost a little bit of meter to it sometimes. There's like some shortcuts that I think that both of those authors use, like a certain amount of alliteration, not quite rhyming, but echoing sounds, sentence mirroring, where you are intentionally echoing the exact structure of a sentence, like repeatedly across a page. I think there's things that they do that make it sound almost more like the oral tradition of storytelling that I think is really, really cool. But there's also authors whose prose I hugely admire that aren't necessarily read aloud or musical sound, like Catherine Valenti.
Yeah.
I think she's incredible.
Palimpsest is amazing.
Palimpsest is amazing. In the Night Garden was again some of the like short fiction. It's nested stories. If you've never read that one, which is an insane idea, but it's a sort of Scheherazade figure who's telling a story, and then you get into that story, and then there's a storyteller in that story, and it goes like 9 levels deep, and then comes back out the other side. It's great. It's great. I love it so much. But her prose is gorgeous and just luxuriant, but not in that like oral way, if that makes sense.
Mhm. They're kind of, yeah, I like the fact that it's like there are different levels of it, and you can appreciate any given one just depending on your subjective tastes, right? It's
Yeah.
like, and sometimes like MJ's converted me into a mood reader, and it's like sometimes I'm like, fuck yeah, give me that, just give me that, you know.
Mhm,
And other
mhm.
times it's like I might not be in the mood for that. Like I want something a little bit more punchy and kind of more like thriller pacing or something like that. But there is beauty and rhythm to the prose regardless of like what kind of genre it is or the particular style of the writer.
Like what you're specifically doing. Like I had this crazy experience where I wrote a short story and then this small indie band wrote a song based on the short story, which
So
is
cool.
great. Like that's incredible.
That's a goal I didn't know I
and
had.
they changed
Right.
they changed one of my lines. And I was like, son of a bitch stole my line. But the line I had originally written was I would rather love a coward than mourn a legend. And the line that they used was I would rather mourn a coward. No, I would rather love a coward than mourn a martyr. And that scans so much better. If you're a singer, like just having the alliteration there, like the way the word martyr sounds over legend. And I was like, well, what I was doing with legend, it like echoed other things in the story. It had to be that way, but it's so neat that literally one word choice sounds more musically correct.
Yeah. Well,
I'll try. Send me the link for that. And I'll throw it in the description.
Yeah, right? We
Yeah.
can share the song. I love it. Okay, so when Greta was researching this topic, because I would say it's written in first person in the question, but Greta wrote this question. I want to give her her flowers. So when Greta was researching this topic, she came across this blog where the author of the blog was saying something along the lines of it was impossible to simultaneously write something that is true about a character and something that is linguistically beautiful. So, as a person that just read your book, where there's a lot of linguistically beautiful stuff that reads awfully true to me, what's your take on this? Like, can beautiful prose illuminate truth? Are there times when you really do need to use more pared down language to be authentic? Like, just let's dig into it.
Yeah, I planted that just to give me a platform to be mad about.
I knew it.
This was her shortcut to a masterclass.
Yeah, because that just makes me mad. Because counterpoint, it is not beautiful if it's not true. Like a good metaphor is only a good metaphor because it is saying something correct and true about your characters or about the world that is not expressible in a simpler way. Like, if it was, we'd just fucking say that. And I think that's valuable. And definitely some authors, myself included, need to be reminded to simply state the obvious truth up front. Because I actually think that often leads to deeper writing. Like, if you say the obvious thing that, like, I don't know, he could never please his father, or she was scared of the future, or whatever the thing, the emotional truth is that you're like dancing around or something, then often you discover another layer under that. But there is always, I think, a layer of sort of almost inarticulate things that are happening subtextually that are just as valuable and true to your characters that you can kind of only get at sideways. I was thinking about a random line of prose. There's a lot of them that are just kind of like stuck in my head forever. One of them is from Cormac McCarthy's All the Pretty Horses. He describes his two characters as going out into an orchard at night and that all the possibilities of the future hung before them, 10,000 worlds for the choosing. And that became the first title for my first novel, like 10,000 worlds. Like, there's something that is much more true about saying that than just like, these kids were excited about the future. Like, come on, you're trying to get at like the excitement and the urgency of being young and being free for the first time in your life. Or even simpler lines like there's Kathleen Jennings, who does like Australian Gothic, had a very beautiful debut novella that had just a throwaway line about a character is watching power lines out the window of a car and they're loping like pursuing animals, is the phrase that she uses. And that's exactly how power lines move. You know, as you're watching them out the window as a kid, it's very evocative of a very specific experience we've all had. But it also specifically was true to that character who feels pursued, who is subject to dark things that are chasing her. So there's nothing that is beautiful that is untrue. Also, no, I have more to say. Also, I just think it ties into this idea that there is something that is plain speaking, and then there's ornament or like purple prose, which I do not think is true. Just because you do not notice it does not mean that the prose is not linguistically and intentionally beautiful. And that's where we go back to Shirley Jackson.
Segue, Alix.
Well, I love all of the like different references that you're bringing into it because it really does illustrate the point you've been making that beautiful prose and really great rhythm is not just bound up in one literary tradition. Like you don't just have to be writing highbrow literary or really like obscure 5th century, historical fiction. Like you can do it no matter what, little kiddie pool you're playing in. So speaking about purple prose and Spartan prose, like what can different prose styles achieve and how flexible do you think that style can be within the bounds of a given story or even within different character points of views?
Yeah. I think that's just like one of the most fun things to play in. And one of the reasons to kind of keep genre boundaries as loose as we can, both as writers and as readers, and to not get too stuck on like, well, if this science fiction novel has too good a prose, like The Ministry of Time, we're not really going to pay attention to it in genre circles because that's not ours. It is yours. It is about time travel. It is a gorgeous book. I don't know what we're doing here when we're drawing these lines based on perceived highbrow versus lowbrowness. We're only shooting ourselves in the foot here. But I do also think that it gets back to that thing of like, there is no genre that has like necessarily or automatically bad prose. It may be invisible to you. It may be about how much of your attention and time it demands. But if you don't notice it at all, that usually means it's quite good in its own way, right? Like that is a real skill to do. And I hesitate though a little bit because I feel like there is a little bit of a trend right now across all genres toward more Spartan prose or more prose that is more invisible. There's a little bit of the sense that it's kind of cringe and try hard and demanding and like, oh, you're using $10 words or oh, that's purple prose just to like be having fun with language. I find that really frustrating. And I think a little bit symptomatic of sort of the book talkish, Instagramish reduction of what books are. Not that some of those people aren't doing incredible work and reviewing and stuff like that, but like excerptable prose or easily understood prose does not necessarily mean is not the only kind of good prose that there is.
or
Just because
also
it can't,
yeah,
like
or
it can't be
also
dialed down into one like graphic on an Instagram
right,
page.
right. Or
Yeah.
also the fact that like a lot of these like bookstagrammers, booktubers, book talkers who have really long TBRs and a lot of them it's like how the fuck do you read so
Yeah.
much in a single year? And so it's kind of like I don't know how. Yeah, it's kind of like this weird confluence of like the marketability that like market forces are pushing for more Spartan prose
Yes.
kind of thing, but also it's kind of like the ways in which social media has influenced our attention spans when it comes to content in general. And it's like, are you is your brain trained to linger on
And it's
prose
mostly
in
not.
that
And
way,
like
right?
literally, if we were talking about prose as time, as manipulating time, like time is something that is very valuable in a sort of capitalistic and social media economy. And so, like, literally, people do not have the time, they do not have the attention. And I can't help but note that, like, I think it's 2 years in a row now that American literacy rates have declined for the first time. That's concerning. I'm concerned about that. And that's not to be like a hand wringing liberal about it. I do think that's genuinely bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I read an article today actually about just like I don't know, the algorithms know I'm a parent, so they send me tons of parenting shit all the time, which is both like good and annoying. Um but it was basically like not only have like literacy rates gone down, but also it's like what you talked about last episode, how it's like you are like second generation like nerd
Mhm.
basically, and how your mom passed along so much of this love for reading and certain kinds of stories to you. And it's like modern parents are actually reading less to their kids. And the headline was actually uh whatever generation. I think it's like I can't remember all the fucking generations, like Gen Z
Gen
or something like
Alpha, right?
that.
The
But it's
little
basically like it's like certain generation of parents is not reading to their kids because they find it boring. And I'm like,
Mhm.
Are you fucking kidding me? You can't read a
Mhm.
children's book. And there is like beautiful prose and like lyricism in
Oh,
children's books too. And like the
absolutely.
rhythm and the rhymes and all
We
this
have
kind of stuff
so
is like,
little space to
oh my
make it
God.
work. It's
Yeah.
witchcraft to me how they
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
that.
It's unbelievable. So like, please read to your kids, like pass on this, like,
I mean, truly, we're doing it. This is now a PSA. Read to your
I was
kids.
just
this is a
gonna
PSA.
And I find that
prose rhythm and PSAs.
really depressing because it's not something like, I don't know. We are parents. We know parents. This isn't something where like people just don't value their kids. Of course they do, but it just feels like to me that kind of statement of like, and I think that specific study you're talking about was that the majority of parents for the first time reports that it's not enjoyable to read to their kids. And I can only see that as like a product of like, well, people are working longer hours for less money under more stressful conditions and like having less time for time consuming but joyful activities. It is an investment to read to your kids. You are often tired. Like it is a privilege to have the time to get to. I'm reading we're almost done with Watership Down right now, me and
Oh,
my
so
kids, and
good.
I'm so
So
glad to
good.
report that it still hits. I'm so happy because I was like very
Yeah.
nervous because it's
Yeah.
It's older,
long.
yeah.
It's an older book.
It's
Yep.
very long. It's older. The number of plants named per page is very high. Just very high. And they're not even plants they know. They're like English plants.
Some deep level botany going on in Watership
Yeah.
Down.
Very intense stuff. And it's like, I will admit to feeling the temptation to every now and then being like, I could skip this paragraph where he talks about burdock leaves for 5 sentences in a row. However, those choices he made on purpose. That is about sinking into this incredible animal perspective that he's built, where they perceive their world through the herbs that they know. Like, I didn't realize till reading it out loud that at a certain point they go far enough from home that they don't know the names of the plants. That's great. I love that.
Yeah. It's like it's character building,
Yeah.
you know? You read that shit, not everything is going to be amazing, but
Mhm.
you'll start to have to develop an appreciation for the prose and just for your language and everything like that too. And speaking of characters, we'll switch to characters for a little bit and talk about how prose can inform kind of like PSA over, just so everyone knows.
Read to your kids. Okay.
Read to your fucking
If
kids,
you
please.
wanna-
How does prose inform characterization on like a sentence level?
Yeah, I mean, I've already given the kind of the greatest to ever do it example, right? Which is that you're choosing your verbs based on what root language your characters would have spoken. Um, but I feel like that is one of the trickier parts of every book that I write is that you have to like figure out both what you want your tone to be in terms of genre, in terms of the book, but also you have to get to know this person and how they would think and talk. And I feel like my earliest chapters are always full of like a couple of contradictory bits of prose from these characters where I'm like, oh, that line sounded good, but it doesn't end up actually being about her. That's not right. Now I know who she is, and that's got to go. And so it is a real trial and error to figure out exactly like not just the specific historical moment or cultural background that this character has, like the words alone that they would use, but like their rhythm, their framing, their emotional tonal register, what they're going to hit. I'm actually rereading the Six of Crows books right now, which are so tight. They're so much fun. Oh my God. And one of the cooler things that she does is switch between, is it 6 characters? It must be by the second book. Maybe it's more. I think there's a couple more thrown in there. And they each feel like they perfectly belong in the world of Six of Crows, but they are their own person. That is a huge skill.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
Yeah. One thing we hear people talk about a lot with prose, and I feel like with character, honestly, with everything that we're talking about, is the old adage, the show don't tell, right? But obviously, if we're going to show literally every detail throughout the book, they're all going to be, whatever, 1,800 pages long. How do you walk that tightrope? How do you make the decisions, I guess, of what you show and what you lean more towards telling.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like I obviously don't like that. And like, I understand. Again, this is one of those things of like, maybe you don't want to be taking this advice, because I certainly get feedback that's like, this book was all tell and no show. I'm like, yes, correct. But I am doing it on purpose. And I really think that that is kind of mid-century MFA advice that has infiltrated our culture and is one of the few
Saboteur.
Saboteur.
Get rid of it.
They want us all to be like sad mid-century white men. We're not all Hemingway. I'm sorry. But I think
Fuck your iceberg.
Fuck the iceberg. And I think it's just kind of, I think it is a narrow vision of what storytelling is. I think it is not based on like we've talked a couple times about music or about oral storytelling traditions. That's all telling and not showing. And there is such beauty and skill in the way that you can tell a good story. And I really like to use sections of telling to sort of frame in your scenes. Like you have these long sections that are summarizing. In a movie would almost be the montage section or something like that. And then you can sort of dial into your scene. I think I'm often bothered sometimes, like you're reading a contemporary novel and you are sitting through 20 pages of flashback in order to show you that like she was a lonely child or her mom was mean or something. And I literally think we can sometimes have more telling. We can just have someone be like, I was always a lonely child. Oh, we're done. Oh my God. Isn't that beautiful? That leaves us more space. It is again about control of time and how you are deploying your time. It is not always efficient to show everything.
I love that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And like on a similar level to like characterization, we always like to talk about world building as well because we're a bunch of fantasy nerds here. How do you think prose and rhythm can help to represent the world that your characters are inhabiting? And I know you already gave the marvelous example of, the verb choices in the Hild, but do you have any other touchstones or advice you can give?
I think this I know less about than you all do probably, because this was the first secondary world fantasy that I've ever written. And so it was the first time I had to do like that kind of world building. And it felt very intimidating. I didn't like it. It was scary. I don't know how you guys do it. I was like, I don't know when anything happened. What's the other continent doing? I was very stressed about it. I didn't like it. But on a prose level, I do feel like my other books and this book, I'm trying to hit like a certain tonal register that is going to be familiar for some reason. So 10,000 Doors of January is supposed to echo a very specific kind of late 19th century children's fiction that's very voicey. It's often in first person. She's often an orphan. She often has adventures around the empire. It's like Boy's Own magazine kind of era of writing. And so like that came with its own set of genre of like prose rules, right? Like the adjectives you use, the arch tone, the way that she's constantly referring back to like, I didn't know then yet what I would know later. That's a very 19th century trick to pull. Once and Future Witches, I pulled a lot on fairy tale. All of my metaphors come in threes. Certain descriptions, certain words that you're going to find more in Western European fairy tales. Starling House, I had the richness of the Southern Gothic to pull on. Oh my God, that comes with a set of aesthetic choices, of sensory choices, of just like a really specific rhythm to your prose that I really liked playing in. And then this one, sections of it were very clear to me. Like when I was trying to do the like impression of 20th century medievalism, their idea of what the medieval would sound like and that arch and folkloric thing. And then sections of it, I actually felt more kind of out on my own than I had before. Like I didn't have a specific historical moment to ground myself in. And it was frightening. I don't know how you people do it.
I love it. Well, so much of good prose comes down to at the end of the day, style choices and like that all important authorial voice that we always talk about. And it's all well and good to tell someone, well, to write good prose, you need to have good authorial voice. How do we make an authorial voice? Like, can we give newer writers or any writer, really, if they're struggling. I feel like we reinvent our authorial voice at multiple points. It's always changing as we change. What's your best advice for helping someone suss that out and find their voice?
I think you already said it, which is like allowing it to change. I think that's really, really critical. And I feel like we have this idea that I think is more related to like branding and identifiability than it is about art, which is that like you are allowed to write many kinds of books. Your tone is going to shift according to book. And I think if you are truly invested in the artistic project you're doing it, like this is the story you have to tell. You know exactly what you're doing and why. Don't worry, your voice is going to leak through. You don't even think it is. You think I feel like voice is something that happens while you're busy doing other things, actually. And so to focus on craft and to focus on your own artistic intentions, don't worry, you'll come through plenty. It's been my experience.
Yeah.
I love that idea. Just leave some milk out on the windowsill. Your voice will come.
Don't worry, man. Like, if anything, it'll be toning it down later, is what I find.
I don't want it to be like milk, though. I'd rather it be like a steaming pie, you know, like an apple pie
There
that's
we
just on the
go.
windowsill.
Oh, we can like put a nice little
Yeah.
float to it, like a character.
Give me that pie.
Well, I read an article when I was doing some research on this topic that you had wrote for Novelry, or you had written, words, where you said that writing is playing, which I loved. It's such great advice because it's something we tend to forget when we're laboring in edits or trying to make something super beautiful and lush. What do you think? How do you go about infusing fun in your writing when you're going at it through this lens of prose and rhythm?
I should go back and read that because I would like it to be more fun. No, I think
Did the everlasting break you, Alix? What happened?
Honestly, a little bit. It's been kind of a struggle. It did a little bit. And one of the things, so I have my short story collection, but the actual next thing I'm working on that is new is I wanted to try middle grade fantasy, which is a dying genre. And my agent was like, why? Why are you doing this to me? But literally because I wanted to get back to the fun of it. And I really feel like if you are not delighting yourself and making little prose jokes or little rhythm jokes or finding new and funny ways to deploy parentheses, what are we doing here? Like that is, and I realize that everybody finds like the specific things I do joyful in prose, but like maybe it's a quip that your character makes, maybe it's a particularly beautiful description. There's got to be something that you are chasing that is not at the end of the book, because that is very far from you. But the daily joy of writing to me is when you do something that's like pretty funny. Or like, you're like, oh, I nailed that. That's pretty good. Like writing middle grade. I'm not a subtle writer, obviously. There's nothing politically subtle about the everlasting. I understand that. But writing middle grade, I find I can be even less subtle. And I really enjoy that. Like, there's no one to stop me from naming my villains Bottom Line and Buckle Down. I think that's great. I think that's really fun. Like, I'm not subtle, but do you know who's less subtle? 10-year-olds. It's really delightful.
We all need to embrace our inner child.
I love it. Embrace that inner 10-year-old.
Embrace the inner 10-year-old. Yeah, it's like a Hallmark card. Just like enjoy the small things in life.
Enjoy the small things in life, because it's true. Because books are very long, and if you're a slow writer like me, like you are not going to get the payoff feeling of having finished a whole book very often. So you better be chasing a different high.
Savor it. Savor every moment of it. Well, you've given us a ton of amazing advice and some awesome stuff to work with. But if you have any final pieces of wisdom that you can offer our audience in relation to prose and rhythm.
I think at the end of the last episode I did with you all, I said that you had to read a lot. And I think that is unfortunately still true. It is mostly just developing your own ear, maybe more than your voice. It's actually the other side. It's developing your own ear. And the only way to really have the ability to read a line and go, oh, that killed, is to read lots. You got to do it. And read to your kids once again.
Yeah. Back to the PSA.
PSA back on.
Well, Alix, thank you so much. That's it for this PSA and our two-parter with Alix. Thank you so much for chatting prose with us. It's been an absolute delight.
It was absolutely my joy. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Go read to your kids and go buy Alix's books. Everlasting is out today, so go buy it. It's fantastic. Alix, where can folks find you online?
I am on Blue Sky and Instagram at Alix E Harrow at both places.
Awesome. And you can follow SFF Addicts across the board at SFF Addicts Pod. You can find me at Adrian M. Gibson. Mushroom Blues is available wherever fine fungal books are sold. MJ, what about you?
Yeah, you can find me mostly on Instagram these days at MJ Kuhn Books, or just go to mjkuhn.com. If that changes, all of my social links will be there. And you can buy my books wherever fine books. Probably fungal books too. Are sold.
I mean, I hope the books aren't moldy. I really do. That would be a sad
right.
state
I mean, that's fair. Yeah. If Among Thieves is fungal, something has gone horribly wrong.
Yeah. There was like a flood in the bookstore. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. Tragic.
Wherever fine books are sold, just X the fungal part of it. Greta, what about you?
Yeah, I'm also mostly on Instagram these days at Greta K. Kelly, but you can also occasionally find me over on TikTok and Twitter. And you can get my books, The Warrior Witch Duology and The Queen of Days, wherever you buy fine, medium, or fungal books. They're all out now.
Go support all these wonderful people. Greta's got cats. MJ's got cats. Alix has got cats. I don't have cats, but I have kids, but they don't take priority. And go support all these fine felines wherever fine feline books are sold. That's it for this week. Thank you all so much for listening. For now, keep reading, keep imagining, read to your kids, and we'll see you next time on SFF Addicts.